We need to automate what needs to be automated, and we always need to make sure that we can meet the candidates where they are in the right places. Even if we introduce all this automation, how do we still make it feel human? Right? And that was Matt's
how do we still keep it real?
Welcome to the podcast, where we introduce you to incredible humans who share their journeys with the mission to inspire you to harness your own inner tenacity to drive your life and career forward. And now, your host, Adam Posner.
What's up, everybody? It's time for the main event. I'm here with my man, Pete Eisenman from Fountain. We will call you the salesman. You are a salesman. You're the head salesman over there. How long have you been with Fountain for?
For a little over 4 years.
Okay. Why? Like when you first came over to Fountain, which were you working over at Fountain?
So CEO Sean Bear, I've worked with him for the last 15 years. Recruited me over to Fountain.
It's so interesting, and I see this a lot specifically in this space where you follow. So what specifically is it about Sean? Listen, he's writing the checks over here, but for real, like we're in the world of talent. We're in the world of why do you follow Sean? When Sean says, "Hey, I'm working on something. I want you to come in." What is it?
So we started a company 10 years ago doing on-demand valet parking. Think Uber for valet parking your car. We were in 10 cities. Sean's an innovator. Sean is a fantastic salesperson himself. And he cares, deeply about solving problems, and that's something that you want to go work with. Closer?
No, the place. So let's talk about Fountain for a moment here. This is a very loud and competitive space. Fountain has established itself as a leader for a reason. We're talking big clients. We're talking the UPSs of the world. What is it that makes Fountain different than the other frontline high volume hiring out there?
So I think it's focus. I also think it's our history and our roots. We started, our primary customer was gig companies who in 2020, 2021 were hiring hundreds of thousands of people a year, right? When everybody was sitting at their home, they were delivering goods, and those companies were growing gangbusters. And so our roots are in high volume, right? Because in order to sustain that scale, they needed a vendor who could support that scale. We sort of, as that was sort of the sugar high of, zero interest rates, tons of venture capital in the gig space, we started working with customers like UPS, right? Where we could continue this scale story of hiring hundreds of thousands of people with very minimal human intervention, or we'll say it on the opposite, high levels of automation that allows them to hire it.
And it's so interesting too. So anyone out there, there's lots of different use cases in the world of recruiting, but when we're talking about seasonal, when we're talking about hourly, when we're talking about high volume, you don't need a multi-touch process. You need a process that can evaluate, screen, hire, offer, hire, and fact check. Background check seamlessly there. And we're using AI in this. So how will we move from generative AI to now more agentic AI in this process?
Yeah. So in the way that we describe it is generative AI is GPS, right? You put in where you want to go. It tells you how to get there. You still have to drive the car. Agentic AI is you put in your location, a Waymo or autonomous vehicle picks you up and then delivers you to the location you're trying to get to, right? So how do you have an agent operating autonomously on your behalf to complete a set of actions, right? And so the way in which the world is moving is software needs to be agentic, right? We're moving away from the world in which people are pushing buttons to get work done to having this software operate based on a set of instructions and complete it for you.
Right. So this is obviously moving us towards the world of speed. Speed's important. How has speed really become the competitive advantage with the tools behind the screen here with Fountain?
Yeah. So agentic really lends itself to scale, right? And in Frontline, scale is everything. Given the number of roles you're hiring for, the turnover of those roles, the speed at which you need to hire those roles, it's a really great place for agentic to thrive, because what you're trying to do is move from a deterministic automation to a probabilistic, which increases speed and gets somebody from application to offer and ongoing retention faster.
Okay, so now we're talking about speed here. Let's talk about the candidate experience in all of this. You've been with the company long enough. You've seen the evolution. Where did we start to where we are now, and how has the satisfaction and speed increased with candidates applying to starting?
Yeah. So I think a really telling statistic that we've seen is when given a choice between an instant AI interview and a scheduled human interview, 75% of the time, the candidate chooses the instant AI interview.
They can interview on there, and I didn't mean to interrupt you there. People underestimate the ability for a candidate to interview on their time whenever is exponentially more powerful, more efficient, faster. Plus, you're clearing your pipelines.
Yeah. The other thing I would say is it's more equitable, right? Because the type of roles that we're hiring for, you're getting off your night shift. You're getting off your end of day shift. You're having to pick up your kid from daycare.
Who's going to be ready for an interview at that moment?
Exactly. But also, and they still want to interview, and you do not have recruiters staffed at that time. And you want to be able to attract that talent. And the only way to do so is by having a 24/7 standardized interview that you can have it at any time, anywhere.
What you're doing is you're meeting candidates when and where they are.
So Matt Lavery, who was, our huge champion at UPS.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Absolutely.
Legend.
That was the words he used. We need to meet the candidates where we are. We need to automate what needs to be automated. And we always need to make sure that we can meet the candidates where they are in the right places. Even if we introduce all this automation, how do we still make it feel human? Right. And that was Matt's
how do we still keep it real? And I think that candidates are used to the automation. And when we talk about these frontline workers, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Most of the time, they're working a shift at a time when a recruiter is working a shift.
Correct.
So given the ability where they're not like, oh crap, I got to sit in my truck in my car, I got to duck away from my shift manager to have this interview, you have the ability to, again, meet them where they are in that moment. Yeah. I mean, you can just throw numbers out at us, but how is this sped up process as some of your clients?
So, I mean, we're seeing applicants get through from application start to conditional offer in under 6 minutes.
6 minute abs.
6 minute abs, not 7 minute abs.
6 minute abs.
6 minute abs.
This is fantastic. So let's get into something a little deeper. How have you guys implemented? Listen, there's a lot of fraud out there in the marketplace. Yep. What are some of the tools that Fountain is using to protect your clients and protect the overall experience?
Yeah. So on the one, we partner with ID verification providers. We partner with background check providers. There are ways in which we can require video for the AI interview and avoid screen switching, so we know they are who they are. Those are ways, but even for these frontline roles, the people who get further down in the pipeline or the funnel, that's where you want to introduce a human element to it, right? Because they're showing up for a first shift. They're showing up to a warehouse at 3 a.m. and it can't be fully automated and they just show up, right? These are still frontline roles that interact with people that have to show up to a location.
These are humans, not robots.
These are humans, not robots. They are not sitting behind a computer at home, and you still need, but you want to have a human touch at the right place in the funnel.
Hey everybody, Adam here from the Podcast. Today's podcast is brought to you by the team at Fountain. Fountain is your full-service frontline workforce management platform. I have to tell you, Fountain's offerings are some of the most robust I've seen for any product in the space. They offer full solutions for hiring, managing, and retention. They are truly a one-stop shop focused on the frontline workforce. They also create informative content using their data. For example, they analyze a bunch of data from their fast food chains and created a trend report you could download now on their website. They also have a new ebook out called Frontline Voices. There's a lot to dive into. Certainly check it out. And you could learn more at fountain.com, linked in the show notes. Thank you.
Okay, so let's talk about it for a little bit. So before you mentioned that you could literally take a candidate from application to offer there, but when does a human come in to be able to even answer questions?
Yeah. So even within an AI screen, we still give the ability for an applicant to get to a place where they can be transferred to a recruiter. Right. They can further in the funnel after they've been given the conditional offer. That's where you might introduce a human, right? But what you don't want is your small TA team interacting with the bulk of the funnel. You want them focused on a very specific part of the funnel and a very specific number of applicants who are going to be high quality in the hope that you can retain them longer, right? Because so much of retention has to do with funnel before they're hired.
All right, so let's talk about it from the recruiter angle too. I'm sure you actually talk to a lot of frontline. Is there a sentiment in the marketplace that this technology is going to take a lot of these recruiters' jobs?
Yep. I've talked to a lot of CHROs and TA leaders. What they're doing is, one, they're being asked to keep it flat, their organizations, but grow hiring, right? One way to do that is by having an AI recruiter as your fifth recruiter or sixth recruiter.
It's like off the bench. It's like the fifth man, right?
Exactly, right? Who's coming off the bench? It's going to be Anna, your AI recruiter. So it's the other thing is a lot of our customers, like they want their hiring managers to be focused on high leverage work, right? We work with a lot of this sort of decentralized hiring teams where it's the store manager doing the hiring, right?
You're taking them away from the floor where they're best used.
Exactly. So it's less around how do we reduce number of people we have and how do we redeploy them to focus on the job that they're actually hired for.
Right. So going from capacity, automation to capacity.
Correct.
And we talk about this all the time in this space too. It's like, if you put the mindset on as a recruiter, how do you embrace it? Well, two things. One, as a recruiter, how do you embrace the technology where you're the subject matter expert within the team, you know how to use it, but also changing your mindset has been like, I'm going to embrace the technology because it's going to allow me to do more of the human function of recruiting. If we could automate the initial stages, the scheduling, all those pieces that can be automated and not just be so scared. I'm an in the trenches recruiter.
Yep.
There's so many things I wish I could remove too. And then think about candidate experience. Where are you seeing these advances from a qualitative and a quantitative angle as far as candidate experience?
Yeah. So again, the in Frontline, an applicant is applying for 20 different roles at the same time.
Sure they are.
It's speed to offer, right? And what we've seen is positive correlation between how fast you can get them an offer and quality of candidate. Your most motivated job seekers, right? And so continuing to leverage tools that increase speed is actually correlated to increasing quality, right? And also being able to offer interviews where you might not have been able to have an interview in the past.
Exactly.
Because that is another strain on resources. Now you can give interviews higher in the funnel, right? Because your capacity is infinite.
Yeah.
So it allows more ability to just have another data point to screen for quality.
Let's get nerdy for a little bit here. How are you guys dealing with the regulation, the laws, the compliance with a lot of your clients here? And like, listen, you walked around the floor today, there's some companies that may be getting a little hot water out there.
Yeah, well, if you've seen Delve, there's a lot of snake oil out there too. So we try to stay ahead of it, right? We know, given the type of customers that we work with, we need to be ahead of the curve, right? We need to make sure that we are leading and blazing the way on the compliance and regulatory issues on the AI side, being completely current on, New York 144 and being able to pass audit biases, right? And make sure that we can sit there and be able to stand behind all of this stuff in AI, because at the end of the day, we're dealing with people, and HR is a very sacred space where you need to be SOC 2 compliant. You need to have,
These are the important things.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's bring it home here. You have your crystal ball in front of you, Pete. 2 years from now, you and I are here. Well, maybe we're here, maybe we're not. Maybe we're here, maybe we're not, and we're having a similar conversation. What's the next big wave of innovation in this space when it comes to utilizing AI for frontline hiring?
It's a great question. Part of me, I don't know, right?
Okay, that's why we have a crystal ball here.
Absolutely. So I think what you're going to see is there's a couple pieces. One, it's going to be an expectation that your software is taking away all these tasks from you. Your recruiters are no longer going to be living in a world in which they are in a piece of software pushing buttons, right? Everything is going to be outcome-based and value-based, where they're saying, I need to hire 5 people in this store, in this market, build me the hiring plan, build me the sourcing strategy. Go ahead.
No, keep going. My brain is spinning over here as you're talking.
Build me the highly optimized funnel. Okay, I'm going to take a look at it. I'm going to prove it, and then it's going to go. Right. And that's in a 6 to 12 month stake. In 2 years, I think teams are going to continue to be able to scale in a way that they haven't been able to ever. And I also think there's just going to be a much more widely adopted set of tools in AI. And it's going to be top down. We lead a number of CHRO summits specifically around AI adoption. The key insight out of all of this is all of these initiatives need to come top down.
They have to.
The CHRO needs to be the tinkerer in chief and say, I'm doing this stuff, you all should too. We've asked them many a times, what is the biggest friction in AI adoption within your organization? The immediate reaction is, it's got to be legal or IT. It's not. It's It is mid-level managers who do not want to adopt these tools because they don't want to replace their jobs. They don't want to learn something new. They just want to do their job and go home. And it needs to be a top-down level push to say, these are the tools that we're adopting, and this is how we adopt them, because our life depends on it, right? Our career depends on it, if you will.
Well, it's a fascinating space. Pete, I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
Today. Thank you for supporting the podcast over the last couple of years.
We love the podcast.
I'm a big fan of Fountain. And where could everyone find out more about Fountain?
Fountain.com. You can find me at pete@fountain.com. Would love to have a conversation with you.
Awesome.
Thank you, Adam.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
This is going to be a wrap on night one. We're here at Delilah's. I'd like to thank my friends over at Fountain for inviting me and the podcast. We've had some incredible conversations tonight. I can't wait to share all of them with you. Remember to find out more at fountain.com. And don't forget to check out the podcast. Have a great night, everybody.
Wisdom is forever, but for us, it's time to go. Thank you for joining us. Luckily, we'll be back with our next episode soon, jam-packed with more incredible humans. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and sharing. To join the conversation, search the podcast on LinkedIn. And to catch up on past episodes and more info, please visit www.thepodcast.com.